My name is Kyria Sabin. I'm based in Tucson, Arizona. I run the Ron Fletcher Company, now known as Fletcher Pilates. I also have 2 studios there, Bodyworks Pilates, and we have people coming in from all around the world to study Fletcher Pilates in Tucson. I started Pilates actually in Los Angeles in earnest with Diane Severino, who I consider to be one of my main teachers to this day. And I fell in love with the work almost immediately. And Diane is an inspiration. She was Ron's right hand. Ron was not in Los Angeles at the time. I started studying with Ron directly in 1991 through a workshop in Denver. And I studied with him continuously for 20 years until he passed away in 2011. I never planned to teach Pilates, and it's always amusing to me when students come to the studio and they say, I want to teach Pilates, and they really don't know what it is. I didn't think of it as a viable profession, and it never even crossed my mind that I would teach Pilates. I was really looking for something that was for me. That was a practice that I could continue lifelong. And yoga, there were many forms of yoga that I looked at and took classes in. And it was really the work at the Fletcher studio that spoke to me the most. I've spoken about this a lot. I think that it's difficult to interpret an Eastern practice in a Western society. And Pilates is very much of a Western practice, and it's very much meditative, but it is also very much about the physical. And so it seemed very true and honest and precise, and yet it pulled every last bit of thought and physical energy and the combination of the two that I had. And I immediately was hooked. I had taken Pilates-based classes in New York, and I didn't really know that they were Pilates-based. Pilates wasn't, this is back in the late 80s, Pilates really wasn't a word that was used very often. After studying Ron's work, and when I did choose to teach the work, I decided to go on a pilgrimage and learn more about Romana's lineage of the work, learn more about Eve Gentry's lineage of the work, studied directly with Alan Herdman, went to New York and took some sessions with Deborah Lesson. And so what I wanted to do is make sure that I was making a conscious decision if I was going to teach the Fletcher version of the Pilates method. And what I realized is that there was so much crossover between and among the different teachers of the work. And it was so gratifying for me to understand that what Ron was teaching was true Pilates. And I loved his approach, I loved the work, the breath, and it's the direction that I decided to go in. I came to become the director of Fletcher Pilates International through a very organic process. I was a teacher of the work. I started as a qualified teacher of the work, and then I became a senior teacher of the work. And this was all Ron deciding that you're at another level as a teacher. So as many people have said about his way of teaching, it was very much of an apprenticeship basis. And so you were in study for a certain period of time, and then he would say, okay, it's now time for you to be at the next level. He did give me a piece of paper that says that I'm a master teacher. I don't think that anyone's a master teacher until they've been doing something for a long, long, long time. And so I'm grateful for the piece of paper, but I'm still on my way to earn it. I became the director of the company through simply wanting to create a system by which other people could teach his work and to have some sort of consistency around the world. And so there were several of us who came together in the beginning who had a similar interest, and over time we developed a program of study, and I have since taken that program international. And it's really quite amazing the way the work has grown. It's not huge. It's just one teacher, one one person who catches the Fletcher bug at a time. I continued studying with Ron for 20 years because I had no choice. And it became my calling, and it became very clear to me that this was my calling. I don't think I ever consciously decided I'm going to dedicate my life to this man and to this work. It just became what I did, and there was nothing else that I wanted to do more. And I saw that there was such a need to not only codify his work, but to spread it in a way that allowed for different interpretations of it, always staying within what we call the Fletcher box. So I never really made a conscious decision. It just became part of my life. It became part of my blood, part of my spirit. And there's nothing else I want to do professionally. So it's who I am, and it's what I do. The advice I would give new students who are just wanting to either learn a Pilates practice or learn to become teachers is to understand that this is a study, to understand that this is not something that can come quickly. Just understanding how our bodies are put together and the different nuances of our personal physicalities takes time, and it takes delving deep. It's not something that's surface level. And going from the inside out does become a bit of a spiritual practice. It's not something that you can fake or duet. So it does take a certain commitment. There's also a lot of joy in going through that exploration. So the first of all, it's knowing that there is a certain commitment involved, and then finding someone who knows more than you do. Finding a teacher who has a certain amount of experience and who's also still in study. So to work with someone who doesn't have all the answers, who is on an exploratory path themselves. So Fletcher Pilates is easy to find. It's FletcherPilates.com. I'm based in Tucson. I teach around the country and internationally. We have wonderful teachers. We have wonderful teachers, especially on the West Coast. We have new programs that are starting on the East Coast. Wonderful program in Chicago and Texas. And then we have programs internationally. So we have 3 programs in Asia, 2 in South America, 2 programs in Europe. We're not trying to take over the world with Fletcher Pilates, but we are accessible and available in most major capitals in the world.